Welcome to Community Church Unitarian Universalist. I am Alicia. I'm your worship associate here this morning. Unitarian Universalism is a religion of binding oneself to others through respect and sensitivity toward the unity of all life. Ours is a religion that calls us deeper and deeper into a meaningful relationship, a religion that asks something of us. Unitarian Universalists are a religious people, whether we identify our practice or spirituality as earth-centered, theist, agnostic, humanist, Jewish, Buddhist, Hindu, Taoist, Christian, or Muslim. We gather and worship to give worth to what is ultimate in our lives, and as a people of faith, to support one another in our spiritual growth, do the work of justice as we strive to create beloved community on earth. That was something new that Jacqueline brought for us, which, yeah, we'll keep using it. You can look to our weekly email for announcements. A couple very brief announcements that I have. One is that this week is the 100th anniversary of Avis's birth. Avis was a longtime member of this congregation. Her generosity also really has helped this congregation stay sustainable. And if you want to see, this is Avis right here. And if you want to read more about her and her contribution, we have these beautiful signs outside of our sanctuary that describe who she is and the work that she's done with us. And also, because I'm up here, I would also, unrelatedly, like to make a quick plug for our Instagram. If you ever attend events at this church, related to the church or not, if they're happening in this space or they involve church people, take a picture, send them to our Instagram account so we can promote our church and the work that we're doing. And the link for that is in your Community Matters email that goes out every week. We are delighted to have Jacqueline back in our pulpit this morning. We all know Jacqueline because she's been a member of our church for 9 years. She's also Reverend Emeritus from her former congregation in Tennessee. So as usual, we are very happy to have her here with us today. And she will give us our call to worship.
We are living in the greatest revolution in history, a huge spontaneous upheaval of the entire human race, not a revolution planned and carried out by any particular party, race, or nation, but a deep elemental boiling over of all the contradictions that have ever been. A revelation of the chaotic forces inside every body. This is not something we have chosen, nor is it something we are free to avoid. Those are the words of Thomas Merton. He wrote 70s, 80s, the revolution continues.
It is our church's custom to light a chalice invoking hope and eternal truth to our worship. Please join us in singing the words of the chalice lighting, which are printed in your order of service. And now we have our words for all ages.
So I've commandeered Alicia as the worship associate to help me, and I would like you to help me too, since I don't think we have any really, really young people, but we're young of spirit. But anyway, you can stay in your seat, and we're going to do some hand motions. we come together to remind ourselves to treat all people kindly. Come on, guys, jump in there. Because they are our brothers and our sisters, to take good care of the earth because it is our home, to live lives full of goodness and love, because that is how we will make our world the best place it can be. Thank you for your help and yours. Well, forgot the number. Just give me a minute. Gandhi. Oh, I know. All right, that's why I forgot it, because I have it written down here. These are words of Mahatma Gandhi. When I despair, I remember that all through history, the way of truth and love have always won. There have been tyrants and murderers, and at times they can seem invincible. But in the end, they always fall. Think of it. Always they fall.
So now is our sacred time of joys and sorrows. If you are online, you may write your joys and sorrows in the comment section to be read out loud. And in person, you may write them down on the cards that our greeters have in the back. Please remain seated as we sing hymn number 170, We Are a Gentle, Angry People. From Jim, sorrow for loss of a century of hard-won goodwill in the world in only a matter of a week. A joy in the beautiful spring weather. I'm going to add one more sorrow for Louisiana once again being notorious, specifically Jenna, Louisiana, and having an ICE facility where people go in without due process, and we have very little information about what goes on there, which is a terrible, terrible precedent that we've seen in history. So prayers for everyone, the ICE facility in Jenna, Louisiana.
I also wanted to bring a prayer, and I didn't. So I'm wearing my stole, obviously the rainbow colors, and I put the flag up here, and I want us to pray. I know you'll want to too, for our transgender friends and for the rest of the gay and lesbian community. They're in great danger, as are our immigrants.
So we will light one more candle, one for the joys still perhaps too new to share, and one for the sorrows that we cannot yet put words to. But please know that we love you and that you are in our hearts.
Our second reading. If only it were so simple. If only there were evil people somewhere insidiously committing evil deeds, and it were necessary only to separate them from the rest of us and destroy them. But the line dividing good and evil cuts through the heart of every human being. And who is willing to destroy a piece of his own heart? It's Alexander Solzhenitsyn from the Gulag Archipelago. It's getting worse and worse. The biblical image of Jesus of Galilee courageously riding into the main gate of the city of Jerusalem has always struck a deep chord within me. It's an evocative image, the defenseless Jesus riding into Jerusalem merely to do his religious rituals for Passover. The city overflows with the arrival of other devout Jews. The Romans are nervous and have increased the numbers of soldiers for crowd control. This is a very dangerous time for any man, especially a Jewish man. And yet on this day in church liturgy, called Palm Sunday, People waved greenery. We really don't know what kind, but it makes sense. Palms. They waved greenery and cheered Jesus while calling out to him, the Messiah, the King of the Jews, over and over, jubilantly. You know, the Messiah, the King of the Jews, would never end in a bad way. The courage to do what may not turn out well for you, but also what you believe deeply must be done. That is why what I see in this young man of 30-ish years as he faced evil. And I am deeply moved, vulnerable, unarmed, essentially alone, a man who has done no act of violence. And however, perhaps to everyone's surprise, he was convicted by the Romans of sedition. Seems blown out of proportion, as sedition meant causing by conduct or collective disobedience toward a magistrate, a rebellion, mutiny, or civilian mob. What happened was murder. I can't help but think of a recent Louisiana execution, forcing a man to breathe nitrogen until he dies 20 or 30 minutes later of hypoxia. That's a long time to die. But Jesus was executed by Roman crucifixion on a trumped up charge. Funny, I had that phrase. And hung for days and nights. Terrified friends denied they knew him. Officials ducked their responsibility, passing him on to higher and higher officials. Mobs, floggings, cheering, blood-lusting people seeking the spectacle of a man executed with a slow, gruesome death that only Roman legions used. I'm taking a cue from this Palm Sunday narrative and addressing evil, facing and naming of evil that we humans do in the present times. More and more, I have become convinced that progressive liberal folks can no longer deny that evil exists in our world. We want to reduce evil to discussions of, oh, they had a bad home environment or whatever, and causes for evil, and offer psychological excuses for evil. And those are valid to an extent. But such thinking is focused more on the evildoer than the victim. Evil is determined by pain and suffering and deprivation of the victims. There are some who really don't care what they do to others, or to the environment, or to creatures, or to other people's families, or whether they destroy sacred principles of human decency and freedom. This seems the right day for a sermon on evil, because what happened to Jesus, supposedly on this day, and personally because of Megan. Megan. Megan was the 18-year-old daughter of a dear family friend. She disappeared from her dorm on a recent Sunday night at 9. No one knows why she went out or where she was going. About 5 days later, she was found dead at the bottom of a steep ravine off the highway exit. Not a place she would have voluntarily walked at 9 p.m. on a Sunday evening. She likely had been there since Sunday night that she disappeared, and that's all we know. This is not a unique horror in our world, but it is a personal reason for this sermon. As a minister, I have walked with several beloved congregation members who have had sons murdered, and my best collegial friend whose daughter was murdered. It's this intentional evil and taking of innocent life that I rail against today. I cannot imagine how these families survive such an unfathomable trauma. The families do continue with their now very, very different lives, and I am humbled by their courage and spirit. Don't know if I could do it. And I pray that Megan's family may also find the grace to go on with meaningful lives, even more moments of joy in the future. I tell you this because I am sick and tired of making excuses for adults for the intentional evil they do, intentionally destroying life and its quality of goodness. Yes, I've seen evil, but I didn't want to name it, nor do I want to name it today. Not something a rational, liberal, religious person speaks of. Overly dramatic, too moralistic, a term that makes you use uncomfortable, as it should. Proverbs warned us long ago about what is evil. Proverbs is in the Old Testament. I read chapter 6, verses 16 through 19. There are 6 things the Lord hates, 7 that are detestable to him: haughty eyes, a lying tongue, hands that shed innocent blood, a heart that devises wicked schemes, feet that are quick to rush into evil, a false witness who pours out lies, and a person who stirs up conflict in the community. It's home. Evil is defined as a manifestation of profound immorality and wickedness. And another source describes evil as a distinct but unintelligible reality. I will explore both. Would you make it a little cooler, Bill? Can you make it cooler? For us. Well, that's what I should have said. Come down from the heavens and let it be cool. So today I will explore both individual evil and evil as a distinct, unintelligible, or incomprehensible reality. A mob destroying lives and property, and the evilness can spread like a virus. A manifestation of profound immorality and wickedness, a manifestation. However, as Solzhenitsyn pointed out to us, the line dividing good and bad runs through the heart of every human being. The writers on evil that I read, and I wanted to show you, I read Facing Evil and Confronting the Dreadful Power Behind Genocide, Terrorism, and Cruelty. Light reading. And Viktor Frankl's Say Yes to Life in Spite of Everything. This is a very nice one. The writers on evil that I read agree that evil exists in every one of us. Jeffrey Burton Russell names this as radical evil and a fundamental warping of the will that underlies individual actions. He rejects the argument that there are evil actions, but no evil people. That's a foundational belief of our Universalist ancestors. And good on them, but not for me today. I believe there are people who have allowed their wills and personalities and lives to be swallowed up by evil without even a struggle. Jeffrey Russell writes, unless we recognize evil, name it, and deal with it as a real phenomenon, We can't convert its tremendous energies into good. We dismiss it to our own harm and to the harm of our neighbors and of our planet. I could not understand this concept of converting the energy of evil to good until recently. I was describing my incarcerated friend who I have pastored since 2005. When I first visited him, he was on death row. At barely 17, he had intentionally shot a man who had done him no harm in a robbery. I told him I believed in second chances, and I do. Nevertheless, he committed a very evil act. I am clear about that, and yet I have grown to believe him a good and decent man. He has been accepted to the Baptist Theological School at Parchman Penitentiary as a Catholic. He wrote a plan of ministry to visit the sick and dying at the penitentiary and to counsel with incarcerated Catholics, his peers. A state official came to meet with him, this is just recently, and said they were interested in seeing some of his plan becoming possible at Parchman. We are thrilled. I believe this is an example of using the energy of evil for good. He could have continued his path of self-centered, angry, destructive, and violent behavior. Instead, he wrote the Unitarians. Think we can't change lives? Instead, he wrote the Unitarians to see if they had room for such as he, and stayed in pastoral relationship all this time. He's paid a terrible price. He's been incarcerated from the age of barely 17. He's now 51. From 17 to 33 years, he lived on death row. He grew up on death row, really. Until the Supreme Court ruled that crimes committed by 17-year-olds and younger couldn't receive the death penalty. He was then put into a very tough general population. The focus of evil may completely dominate some people. Hitler always comes to mind as an example. However, with most people, evil does not dominate. It has become fashionable by we progressives to deny the existence of this radical evil within. And yet Russell writes, denying it to ourselves, we fail to face our own problems. So we then lose the opportunity to resolve them. Worse, by denying the real evil within ourselves, we project it on others. Lots of projection going on, I think, nationally. He continues, repression of malice and failure to face it within ourselves produces the self-righteousness. That's probably a sin that some of us are more familiar with. Produces the self-righteousness that provides us with ready justification for our insensitivity and cruelty. It enables us to claim vices and virtues, justifying our violence, our prejudice, our intolerance on the grounds that evil is not found within us, only in others. Radical evil is possible when victims are demonized, and the demonization of victims becomes possible when we fail to recognize the evil within us. You aren't surprised if you follow the news that our own nation and society has faults, has done great evil, and I just pulled a few sensational ones out. I don't know if I'll ever get over Abu Ghraib and My Lai rounding up and sending men to a foreign jail known for its inhuman conditions without any due justice, or to Jenna, Louisiana. The illusion that there can be a society without evil, or that we can build a society without evil, is the root of the most destructive behavior of humanity. Massive U.S. deportations without due process are evil, even as they are said to be preventing great harm, putting those murderers and rapers and criminals out of our country to make us safe. The belief that if we can build a perfect world, if we can just destroy those evil people who block our noble efforts, was a belief shared by Hitler, Stalin, Pol Pot, and many others. Trying to create a purely Christian or Muslim society violates and distorts the essential purpose of religion. Religion is to serve as a source of radical prophecy outside the values of the world, not get entangled in politics. When individual human wills are submerged in the will of the whole by choice or fear and intimidation, the results will be a mob energized, acting at the level of the lowest, the most violent, the cruelest, the least personally aware. For instance, the jubilant crowds listening to Hitler in Nuremberg were not having a rational experience. Their basest fears and emotions and pride were being fanned into the chaos of a mob, and individuals conceded their rational thought. Such inflamed fears and irrational emotions energizes evil. Human mob behavior acts like an unthinking organism, or like a swarm that fights in unity against its perceived enemy. We recognize that radical evil is a force aimed at destruction. No species has anything remotely like the destructive effect we have, and yet humanity seems to have set no bounds on its own destructiveness. As I found at the Veterans Hospital in Memphis, I was a chaplain. I discovered that war destroys lives of both the killer and the killed. There are many who cannot accept what they did and saw, even today, and it has destroyed them, most of them since Vietnam. War is evil, noted Jimmy Carter. Sometimes it is a necessary evil. I have my little bracelet on. I believe that. We know millions of innocent people are being changed for the worse in war-torn areas of the world. Future generations warped, burdened. They know too much of death and destruction. Psychiatrist Scott Peck names those who intentionally do evil as people of the lie. They're lies that pretend to be in the name of good, but they are not. They are self-serving lies. Their lies of evil cannot really be verified because they lie deep in their people's hearts. If repeated enough, we find them normalized and believed. The banality of evil is often mentioned in my readings. Its tediousness, its laziness, its commonplaceness, its lack of creativity. However, the thing that proves evilness is the effect it has on its victims, as I've said. What I am doing this morning is calling for an open-minded consideration of evil, both individual evil and the larger evil that spreads like a virus over our nation and the world today. Knowing truth is always good, no matter how painful. And naming evil may allow us to withstand it effectively. I find it easier to navigate the chaos that we're experiencing if I stay focused on what I believe, and that is, we are dealing with people focused on evil, on destruction of what is good and true, both nationally and internationally. To me, it's one issue. Characteristically, evil has an agenda of lies, intent on the destruction of truth and what is good. It uses intimidation to get its way, and horrifyingly, it reclassifies and dehumanizes people. Evil annihilates the worth of individuals and a free press. Its agenda is to destroy true science and intellectual thought, knowledge, books, and it is homophobic, xenophobic, and devoid of compassion. Evil is cold-blooded. Liberal causes and liberal religion are not yet effective in penetrating evil. Namely, it seems, because we just don't want to recognize it for what it is. We label it greediness or uncaring or destructive or stupid or fascist or extreme. But one word is only a piece of the larger, I hate to say pie, I love pie, of the larger scene, the larger what I see as evilness. How do we resist evil? Russell and others I've read point out that evil cannot be defeated with evil, negation with negation, terrorism with terrorism, missile with missile. The process of negation must be reversed, and only affirmation can overcome negation. Evil can be integrated only by good. Hatred can only be overcome with love. That means what it's always meant. Continue to visit the sick, give to the poor, help those who need help. It means nurture the children and grow in self-knowledge, most important. Seek truth, create beauty, if only in your garden. Care for all creation. Open your heart to love. And relieve the symptoms of pain, of evil, as we can. Avoid the knee-jerk reaction. We are going to defend ourselves personally and publicly to our deaths if we are not careful. We don't need to be defensive. Try to be a bit more kind. And we must continue political actions of resistance, as well as the resistance of an open-hearted love, reaching out beyond our usual circles to include others. Simone Weil elegantly writes, look more with a loving look. Look at words. Look at your own perverseness. Look at your own rationalizations. But above all, look at their victims with a loving look. As Dante said, love takes us ever outward, opening wider and wider and freer, lighter and lighter in a sparkling spiral into a more, ever more beautiful world. Hatred takes us in the opposite direction, spiraling, ever narrower, ever tighter, ever darker, into a world of ugliness and pain. Have a greater awareness of our own ability, yours and mine, to make choices. We could wish this for some other folks. Have a greater awareness of their own ability to make choices voluntarily, offers Russell. Most of us have within us a still small point of freedom of will, and we can decide for good or for evil, and we know that. We need to put it in practice, not flow along with the times. We can resist evil in our own selves and in our nation. We are not trapped or impotent. In sum, as Holocaust survivor Elie Wiesel shared in his book, Say Yes to Life in Spite of Everything, a lesson he learned in the German camps. Evil is only defeatable if we open our hearts to life and love. I keep on saying this because it seems so trivial, as if it couldn't possibly work. But over and over, I'm reading this. Love is the only thing. Love, reaching out to others, affirmations. My friends, as we are facing evil, as individuals and as a nation, we too must have courage for striving to overcome evil with love, and thereby depriving evil of its capacity to dishearten us. We do not want to give in to being disheartened. We will want to strengthen our community ties, our congregational ties, and nurture loved ones and friendships. And we can laugh with George Carlin's blessing I found online, which I'll close with. May the forces of evil become confused on their way to your house. Amen.
Community Church is a self-sustaining congregation. Members and friends' generosity help us do the sacred work of bringing justice, spirituality, and compassion to our community and beyond. You can give online, by text using the number in your order of service, or in person. Before our collection, this being the second Sunday of the month, we are collecting for an organization, and Sean's going to tell us more about where your contributions will go today.
Hi, everybody. Yeah, this is not quite so heavy as what Jacqueline was just talking about. So today's second Sunday collection will go to SOUL. SOUL is an acronym that stands for Sustaining Our Urban Landscape. Okay. SOUL is a New Orleans-based organization that has planted more than 10,700 trees in New Orleans since 2016. Your offering today will empower SOUL to plant more trees, which will provide habitat for birds and other creatures, shade and cooler temperatures, clean the air, and improve quality of life for New Orleans' most under-resourced neighborhoods. Recently, a $1 million grant Soul had received under the Inflation Reduction Act was canceled. And Soul is currently fighting to keep its doors open. Personally, I've done a significant amount of volunteerism with Soul. The work they do to plant trees is in fact mostly done by volunteers, but they do have operational costs as well. They have done comprehensive reforesting of street trees in New Orleans, in the lower Ninth, Pontchartrain Park, Algiers, and other places, but those are the biggies. So if you go out to the lower Ninth, if you go out to Algiers or Pontchartrain Park, and you look on the, what are called the hell strips, it's a weird term, right? The hell strips, which are the strip of grass between the sidewalk and the street in most of our neighborhoods, those are all trees that are planted by Soul. And by and large, the effort is meant to replace a lot of the trees that either just we have lost over time and not replanted, or trees that were lost in Hurricane Katrina, of which we know were in the tens of thousands. Anyhow, yeah, I'll finish up here. The situation they are in right now is so dire because the terms of the grant that they had been promised by the Biden administration stipulated that they had spend the money first and then get reimbursed for it on the back end, okay? And this is not at all a situation unique to them, but I mean, for instance, I saw recently a PBS NewsHour story about a farmer who spent $250,000 to put solar panels on his barn to power, you know, a grain threshing operation or something like this. Same thing. He had been promised the money, but he had to spend it first in order then to get comped for it. And now that the White House changed hands, they told him, you know, not so fast. So anyway, Soul is, they're currently in the hole to the tune of a couple $100,000, and have to find some way to get that money back. So thank you for your contribution.
You can remain seated for number 354, We Laugh, We Cry. Please give generously.
For benediction this morning, I found words by John Burens, who used to be a president of the Unitarian Universalist Association, and Rebecca Ann Parker, who was the dean of Starr King School for the Ministry that I attended. Hope arises. It rises from the heart of life, here and now, beating with joy and sorrow. Hope longs. It longs for good to be affirmed, for justice and love to prevail, for suffering to be alleviated, and for life to flourish in peace. Hope remembers. It remembers the dreams of those who have gone before and reaches for the connection within them across the boundaries of death. Hope acts. It acts to bless, to protest, and to repair. Amen. Our closing hymn is number 6, Just As Long As I Have Breath. I want you to note that I choose all my hymns because they have a message that supports what I'm trying to say to you. So even if you don't sing, you might want to read along.
With
Please join me in reciting our chalice lighting. Sorry, extinguishing. Unless you want to stay for another service, in which case we'll light it again. All right, we sing. Chalice here, that it might flow gently in our hearts. May it light your path as you lead this place. May it guide your way until we are together. Please join us across the hall for reflection.
And I don't know, but I'll tell you what. And it's larger. There was one